standing in front of rustic ranch house. My own daughter looked me in the eyes and said I was too stupid to understand modern business. She wanted me to sell our family's 200-acre cattle ranch in Montana to fund her cryptocurrency startup. When I said no, she set an elaborate trap to force me out of my own home. But what she didn't know was that I had an ace up my sleeve that would change everything. Make sure to subscribe because this story will blow your mind. The morning mist rolled across our Montana ranch like a blanket I'd watched settle for 37 years. At 58, I should have been planning retirement, not fighting for my life's work. The ranch house my late husband Jake and I built from nothing stretched behind me, every beam and stone a testament to decades of sacrifice. I pressed my coffee mug against the kitchen window, watching our prize Angus cattle graze in the distance. This land had been in Jake's family for 3 generations. We'd survived drought, disease, and debt to keep it running. But I never imagined the biggest threat would come from within my own family. My phone buzzed with another text from Rebecca, my youngest daughter. "Mom, we need to talk about the ranch situation. This can't wait any longer." The ranch situation, as if 37 years of blood, sweat, and tears was just a business problem to solve. Rebecca had always been different from her sister Jennifer. While Jenny was content working as a teacher in Billings, Rebecca chased every get-rich-quick scheme imaginable. First it was essential oils, then cryptocurrency trading. Now she was convinced she'd struck gold with her blockchain startup called Cowcoin, a digital currency for livestock trading. When she first pitched the idea 6 months ago, I'd listened politely. Rebecca had her MBA from Denver University, spoke fluent business jargon, and could make anything sound revolutionary. But I'd seen too many of her ventures crash and burn, leaving me to pick up the pieces. The call came right on schedule. Rebecca's voice carried that artificial enthusiasm she used when she wanted something. "Mom, you sound tired. Are you taking care of yourself out there all alone?" Alone. She never missed a chance to remind me that Jake had been gone for 5 years, that I was a widow managing a working ranch by myself. "I'm fine, sweetheart. The hands help with the heavy work." That's actually what I wanted to discuss. Marcus and I have been running the numbers, and this opportunity won't wait much longer. Marcus was her business partner, a smooth-talking 28-year-old who wore expensive suits and drove a Tesla he couldn't afford. I moved away from the window, my boots echoing on the hardwood floors Jake had installed himself. "What numbers are you talking about, Rebecca?" "Mom, just hear me out. The crypto market is exploding right now. Cowcoin is positioned to revolutionize agricultural trading. But we need significant capital to scale before our competitors beat us to market. And you think I should mortgage the ranch for your computer money?" The words came out harsher than intended, but I was tired of these circular conversations. A pause, then Rebecca's tone shifted. "Mom, you're almost 60. What are you really accomplishing out there? When's the last time you turned a real profit? Most ranchers your age have already sold to developers." The criticism stung because it held grains of truth. The ranch had struggled financially since Jake's death. I'd leased some pastures to neighbors, sold off part of the herd, and deferred maintenance to keep the operation afloat. But it was still home, still our legacy. "Rebecca, this ranch isn't just real estate. It's your heritage, your children's heritage." I tried to keep my voice steady, but emotion crept in. "What children, Mom? I'm 32 and focused on my career. And even if I have kids someday, do you really think they'll want to shovel cow manure for a living?" Each word was a small blade, precise and cutting. "Your father would roll over in his grave if he knew you were talking about selling his family's land. Dad's been dead for 5 years, Mom. You're living in the past while real opportunities pass us by." The line went quiet except for the sound of my own breathing. After I hung up, I sat in the kitchen that had witnessed every important moment of my life for nearly 4 decades. The table where I'd taught both girls their letters, where we'd celebrated high school graduations and mourned Jake's diagnosis. Where I'd cried over bills I wasn't sure I could pay and celebrated small victories that kept us going. Rebecca thought I was too old, too stupid to understand the modern world. What she didn't understand was that I'd been fighting battles longer than she'd been alive. And I wasn't about to surrender to a daughter who saw our legacy as nothing more than startup capital. The next morning brought Rebecca's silver BMW up the long driveway. She wasn't alone. Marcus climbed out of the passenger seat, his designer jeans and city shoes completely out of place on a working ranch. Behind them came another car I didn't recognize. "Mom, you remember Marcus," Rebecca said, her smile bright but forced. She was wearing what she probably called ranch chic, expensive jeans with strategically placed distress marks and boots that had never seen actual work. Marcus gripped my hand with the aggressive firmness of someone trying to prove themselves. "Mrs. Patterson, thank you so much for agreeing to meet with us. Rebecca's told me incredible things about this place." The third person introduced himself as David Chin, a real estate appraiser from Bozeman. My stomach dropped. They'd brought an appraiser without asking permission, as if the sale was already decided. We gathered in the living room, and I watched Rebecca spread papers across my coffee table like she owned it. The same table where I'd served Christmas mornings and birthday celebrations, now transformed into a corporate battlefield. "Mom, I know this feels sudden," Rebecca began, "but opportunities like this don't wait. We've had the property professionally appraised at $2.3 million. The crypto market is hot right now, but timing is everything." Chen nodded enthusiastically. "Mrs. Patterson, your land is incredibly valuable. The proximity to Bozeman, the water rights, the development potential, you're sitting on a gold mine." A gold mine. These people saw dollar signs where I saw memories, potential where I saw home. "And what exactly are you proposing?" I asked, though I dreaded the answer. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with entrepreneurial fervor. "We need $1.5 million in startup capital. Cowcoin is going to revolutionize how ranchers buy and sell livestock. Instead of traditional auctions, everything will happen on our blockchain platform. Think of the efficiency, the transparency. You want me to sell my ranch to fund your computer program?" I kept my voice level, but my hands were shaking slightly. "Mom, it's not just a computer program," Rebecca said, her patience clearly wearing thin. "This is the future of agriculture. And you wouldn't be selling, you'd be investing. You'd own 40% of the company. When we go public, you could be worth 10 times what the ranch is today." When we go public. The same words I'd heard from every snake oil salesman who'd ever tried to separate hardworking people from their money. "And if it fails?" "It won't fail," Marcus said immediately. "We have solid market research, experienced advisors, and first-mover advantage in the agricultural crypto space." I thought about Rebecca's previous ventures. The aromatherapy business that lasted 6 months. The online boutique that never made a profit. The food truck that was repossessed after 3 months. Each failure had cost me money I couldn't afford to lose. "I need time to think about this," I said finally. Rebecca's mask slipped. "Mom, how much time do you need? We've explained the opportunity, shown you the numbers. The crypto market won't wait for you to get comfortable with technology." I said I need time. Chen was already packing up his tablet. "Mrs. Patterson, I should mention that development interest in this area is extremely high. If you decide not to move forward with your daughter's proposal, I have several clients who would be very interested in the property." The threat was subtle but clear. Sell to Rebecca or watch strangers tear down everything Jake and I had built. That evening, I called Jennifer in Billings. My older daughter had always been the practical one, the steady one who chose teaching over high-stakes business ventures. "Mom, are you serious?" Jenny's voice was tight with disbelief. She brought an appraiser without asking. That's incredibly manipulative. I'm tired of fighting, sweetheart. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am too old for this. Stop talking like that. You're 58, not 88. And even if you were, it's still your ranch, your decision. Jenny paused, and I could almost hear her thinking. Mom, there's something I need to tell you. Last month, Rebecca asked me about Dad's will. She wanted to know if there was any way to challenge your ownership of the ranch. The words hit like a physical blow. My own daughter was planning to legally steal my home. She what? I told her she was crazy, that Dad left everything to you specifically because he trusted your judgment. But Mom, I think she's desperate. Marcus has been posting about their startup on social media, talking about major investors and imminent funding. I think they've made promises they can't keep. After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of Jake's bourbon. The bottle was nearly empty. I'd been saving it for special occasions that never seemed special enough. But tonight felt like the right time to finish it. As I sat in the gathering darkness, I realized something had shifted inside me. The guilt, the maternal instinct to protect my children at any cost, had been replaced by something harder and more practical. Rebecca thought I was a lonely old woman who could be manipulated into giving up my life's work. She was about to learn how dangerous it was to underestimate a ranch woman who'd survived 37 Montana winters. The next morning, I made a phone call that would change everything. Peterson and Associates Law Firm, how can I help you? I need to speak with someone about protecting my property from family members who want to force a sale. 2 hours later, I was sitting across from Sarah Peterson, a sharp-eyed attorney who specialized in elder law and estate planning. Her office walls were lined with certificates and awards, but what impressed me most was the photo of her on horseback at what looked like her own ranch. Mrs. Patterson, what you're describing is unfortunately common. Adult children who see their parents' property as their inheritance rather than their parents' home. Sarah's voice carried the authority of someone who'd fought these battles before. I told her everything, Rebecca's pressure tactics, the unwanted appraisal, the threats about selling to developers. Sarah took notes with the focused attention of a lawyer who'd found her calling. The good news is that as long as you're mentally competent, no one can force you to sell, Sarah said. But I suspect they're not going to give up easily. Has Rebecca mentioned anything about power of attorney or conservatorship? My blood went cold. What do you mean? Sometimes desperate family members try to have parents declared mentally incompetent so they can take control of their finances. It's a long shot, but if they're as determined as you say. I thought about Rebecca's comments about me being too old, too confused to understand modern business. About her questions regarding Jake's will. The pieces of a larger scheme were falling into place. What can I do to protect myself? Sarah smiled grimly. We're going to make sure you're bulletproof. Updated will, financial power of attorney designating someone you trust, medical directives, and a few other legal protections. If they want to fight dirty, we'll be ready. Over the next week, I put Sarah's plan into motion. New legal documents, updated bank accounts, security cameras installed around the ranch house. I also made another important call, to my nephew Tom in Billings. Tom was Jake's brother's boy, a successful contractor who'd always treated me like real family. When I explained the situation, his response was immediate and profane. Aunt Claire, are you kidding me? Rebecca's trying to steal Grandpa's ranch. Over my dead body. Tom arrived Friday evening with a truck full of tools and a righteousness that reminded me of his grandfather. I've been thinking about this all week, he said as we sat on the front porch. That ranch represents 4 generations of our family's work. Rebecca has no right to treat it like a commodity. She thinks I'm a foolish old woman who doesn't understand the modern world. Then let's show her exactly how foolish she is. Monday morning brought another invasion. This time Rebecca arrived with Marcus, Chen the appraiser, and two people I didn't recognize, a woman with a tablet who introduced herself as a loan officer and a man in an expensive suit who claimed to be a cryptocurrency consultant. They'd brought their entire arsenal, 5 against 1. Except they didn't know I was no longer alone. "Mom, we've been working all weekend on a comprehensive proposal," Rebecca announced, spreading even more papers across my table. "I think you're going to be excited about the revised terms." Marcus jumped in with the enthusiasm of a carnival barker. "We've restructured everything to minimize your risk. Instead of a straight property sale, we're proposing a sale-leaseback arrangement. You sell us the ranch for development capital, but you get to stay in the house and maintain a small portion of the land for personal use." I stared at him. "You want me to sell my ranch and then rent it back from you?" "Think of it as having your cake and eating it too," the consultant said. "You get liquid capital from the sale, ongoing income from your equity stake in Cowcoin, and you still get to live here. Until the startup fails and the bank forecloses on everything," I said quietly. Rebecca's patience finally snapped. "Mom, why are you being so stubborn about this? We're offering you financial security for the rest of your life. By stealing my home. It's not stealing if we're paying fair market value." Her voice was rising, the polished facade cracking to reveal the desperation underneath. "At prices you set, with money I'll never see if your business fails." I stood up slowly, feeling every one of my 58 years. "Rebecca, I want you and your friends to leave my house now." "We're not leaving until you sign these papers," Marcus said, his friendly mask finally falling away. "We've put too much time and money into this deal to walk away now." "Actually, you are leaving." The voice came from the kitchen doorway. Tom stepped into the room, still wearing his work clothes but carrying himself with the quiet authority of a man who'd spent his life solving problems with his hands. Rebecca stared at him in shock. "Tom. What are you doing here?" "Protecting my family's legacy," he replied simply. "And making sure you don't take advantage of someone who's been nothing but good to you your entire life." The loan officer was already packing up her materials. "Perhaps we should reschedule this meeting for another time." "There won't be another meeting," I said firmly. "I'm not selling my ranch to fund a cryptocurrency scheme, and I'm not signing any papers that give away my rights to my own property." Marcus tried one last desperate play. "Mrs. Patterson, you don't understand the implications of walking away from this opportunity. The agricultural industry is changing whether you like it or not. You can either be part of the future or get left behind." Tom stepped forward, and suddenly the room felt smaller. "Son, I've been in agriculture my whole life, and I've seen plenty of city boys come through here promising to revolutionize everything. Most of them end up broke within 2 years. The smart money says your blockchain nonsense will be the same." "This isn't over," Rebecca said, her face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "Mom, you're making a huge mistake. When you're sitting here alone in 5 years, wondering why your bills keep getting bigger while your income gets smaller, remember this moment." They filed out like defeated soldiers, leaving behind only scattered papers and the lingering smell of expensive cologne mixed with failure. Tom and I stood at the window, watching their cars disappear down the gravel road. "Think they'll be back?" he asked. Rebecca's never been one to give up easily. But she's also never dealt with someone who won't back down. That evening, Sarah Peterson called with an update that made me smile for the first time in weeks. "Your daughter's been busy, Claire. She filed a petition claiming you're suffering from dementia and requesting emergency conservatorship. Fortunately, your medical records and the psychological evaluation I arranged tell a very different story." "How desperate do you have to be to try to have your own mother declared mentally incompetent?" "Desperate enough to commit fraud, apparently. The petition contains several false statements about your mental state and financial condition. I've filed a countermotion that should put an end to this nonsense permanently." A week later, I received a registered letter from Rebecca's attorney, a different one, I noted, probably because the first one realized how weak their case was. The letter contained an offer to settle all disputes in exchange for my agreement to sell just 50 acres of the ranch for her startup funding. I called Sarah, who laughed when I read her the letter. 50 acres of your best pasture land, no doubt. They're trying to salvage something from their failed power play. What should I tell them? Nothing. Let them wonder. Sometimes the best response to desperate people is silence. The silence stretched for 3 weeks. No calls from Rebecca, no surprise visits, no legal papers. I began to think she'd finally accepted defeat. Then Jenny called with news that explained everything. "Mom, have you seen Rebecca's social media lately?" Jenny's voice was tight with concern. "She's been posting about family betrayal and selfish relatives who won't support their children's dreams. She's making you out to be the villain in all this." I logged onto Facebook for the first time in months and found Rebecca's page filled with carefully crafted posts about struggling entrepreneurs whose families didn't believe in them. She'd turned our private conflict into a public relations campaign, painting herself as the victim of an unreasonable parent. The comments were largely supportive, filled with followers who didn't know the real story. Stay strong. Families should support each other. Some people are too stuck in the past to see opportunity. One post particularly stung. When your own mother chooses money over family, you realize who really matters in your life. Grateful for friends who believe in my vision even when blood relatives won't. Money over family. As if protecting the ranch Jake and I had built together was somehow selfish. As if refusing to fund another get-rich-quick scheme made me the villain. I was still stewing over the posts when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize, but the voice was familiar. "Mrs. Patterson. This is David Chin, the appraiser who came to your ranch. I hope you don't mind me calling directly." My guard went up immediately. "What can I do for you, Mr. Chin?" "I wanted to give you a heads up about something. Your daughter has been calling around to other appraisers, trying to get competing valuations for your property. She's also been asking about the process for forced sales in cases of family disputes." The implications hit me like a truck. Forced sales. In cases where family members can't agree on what to do with inherited property, sometimes courts will order the property sold and proceeds divided. It's rare, but it happens. The thing is, she's been telling people you're already considering selling, that it's just a matter of finding the right buyer. My hands were shaking as I thanked Chen and hung up. Rebecca wasn't giving up, she was escalating. If she couldn't convince me to sell voluntarily, and she couldn't have me declared incompetent, she was looking for legal loopholes to force a sale anyway. I called Sarah immediately. "We need to talk. Today." Sarah's office felt like a fortress that afternoon, surrounded by law books and legal precedents that could protect people like me from people like Rebecca. "She can't force a sale while you're alive and competent," Sarah assured me. "But she could make your life very difficult trying." "What do you mean?" "Nuisance lawsuits, false claims to authorities, social media campaigns designed to pressure you into submission. These family conflicts can get very ugly very quickly." I thought about Rebecca's Facebook posts, the way she turned our relationship into content for her followers. It's already ugly. Then let's end it permanently. Sarah's smile was sharp as winter wind. "I think it's time your daughter learned the consequences of trying to legally harass her mother." The plan Sarah outlined was elegant in its simplicity. Instead of playing defense, we were going offense. A cease and desist letter demanding Rebecca stop making false statements about my mental condition and financial status. A harassment complaint documenting her pressure tactics and unwanted visits. And the nuclear option, a formal complaint to the State Bar Association about her first attorney's unethical conduct in filing a conservatorship petition based on false information. "The goal isn't to destroy Rebecca," Sarah explained. "It's to make it clear that continuing this campaign will cost her more than it could ever gain her." The cease and desist letter was served on a Tuesday. By Thursday, Rebecca was calling me for the first time in a month, her voice stripped of its usual artificial cheer. "Mom, I got a letter from your lawyer. This is completely unnecessary. We're family, we should be able to work things out between ourselves. We could have worked things out if you hadn't tried to have me declared mentally incompetent," I replied calmly. A long pause. "Mom, that was just, we were exploring all options. Marcus thought maybe you needed help managing things, and..." "Rebecca, stop. Just stop lying. I know about the false statements in the petition. I know about you calling other appraisers behind my back. I know about your social media campaign to paint me as the villain." Another pause, longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller, more like the little girl I remembered. "I'm scared, Mom. We owe people money. Real money. If Calcoin doesn't get funding soon, Marcus and I could lose everything." For a moment, my maternal instincts kicked in. This was my daughter, scared and in trouble, asking for help. Then I remembered all the other times she'd been scared and in trouble, all the other schemes that were supposed to save her from the consequences of the previous schemes. "Rebecca, I'm sorry you're in financial trouble. But I'm not going to sacrifice my home and my security to bail you out again. Again. Mom, when have I ever asked you for anything this big?" The question was so absurd I almost laughed. The aromatherapy business. The boutique. The food truck. The credit cards you maxed out in college that somehow became my responsibility. The car loans you defaulted on. Should I continue? Silence. "I've been supporting your dreams for over a decade, sweetheart. I've given you everything I could afford and some things I couldn't. But I won't give you the roof over my head. So that's it. You'd rather see your daughter fail than risk helping her succeed. I'd rather see my daughter learn to succeed without destroying other people's lives in the process." The call ended with Rebecca hanging up on me, but for the first time in months, I felt at peace. The manipulation, the guilt, the constant pressure, it was all over. I'd drawn a line in the sand and meant it. 2 weeks later, Sarah called with the final update. "Rebecca's attorney has withdrawn all pending motions and formal assured us there will be no further legal action regarding your property or mental competence." What changed their mind? Probably the realization that their case was not only weak but potentially criminal. Filing false statements in a conservatorship petition is a serious offense. They're lucky I convinced you not to press charges. That evening, I walked the property lines of our ranch as the sun set behind the mountains. 197 acres of Montana grassland, exactly as it had been when Jake's grandfather first claimed it over a century ago. The cattle were settling in for the night, the horses were gathered near the barn, and smoke was rising from the chimney of the house we'd built together. This wasn't just land, it was legacy. Not the kind measured in dollars or cryptocurrency, but the kind measured in generations of families who'd called this place home. Rebecca had seen it as nothing more than startup capital, an asset to be liquidated for her get-rich-quick scheme. She'd underestimated the strength of a woman who'd spent her life fighting for what mattered. Ranch women don't surrender easily, we can't afford to. Every winter that tries to break us, every drought that threatens our livelihood, every financial crisis that could cost us everything teaches us the same lesson: when something is truly worth having, it's worth fighting for. My phone buzzed with a text message. For a moment, I wondered if it was Rebecca, ready for another round of manipulation and guilt. Instead, it was from Jenny, saw Rebecca's latest Facebook post. She's moving to California to pursue new opportunities. I think you finally got through to her. Love you, Mom. I looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky, the same stars Jake and I had watched from this same spot for 37 years. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, it always did on a working ranch. But tonight, I was exactly where I belonged, surrounded by everything we'd built together and protected by the kind of love that doesn't ask for sacrifice, just understanding. Sometimes the most important battles aren't the ones you win, but the ones that teach you who you really are. Rebecca had tried to convince me I was too old, too foolish, too weak to understand the modern world. Instead, she'd reminded me that some things never go out of style: integrity, self-respect, and the courage to say no when it matters most. The ranch would be here long after all of us were gone, a testament not to the dreams we chased, but to the ground we chose to defend.